So we want to go ahead and grid this. We have the map catalog on, the generate grid on, and the final break lines on. Before we grid this, we want to check to make sure that under LiDAR and the configuration that we have the appropriate items checked. This is digital terrain model, so I have ground and water. And then make sure that you have the projection, UTM zone 18, NAT 83, whatever is correct. So these two are kind of important. I have these two selected. Now I want to go ahead and create the DTM. And in doing so, I can turn off this one, which is the generate the grid. I want the map catalog on and the break lines. And then we're going to use the, make sure this grid method set to the appropriate one, in this case DTM, set it at 1 meter. I do it at 98 is usually my setting. And we want to make sure this is checked. Use the 3D area line features, that's the break lines. And then we want to export out the grids directly to Global Mapper. And then we'll use the selected area features for tiles. And name is the attribute. This is important because the name is the A1, A2. That was the one that we had to make sure that everything was properly sorted because of the order of the way it processes the data. And yes. So everything should be set here perfectly. 1 meter, that's checked. Export the grids. It'll prompt you where to save it. Since this is just a test, I'm going to call this test break lines. This is just a test to see if there's any issues using the break lines. And it will grid it. And so it finished gridding. And I'm going to zoom in here and take a look. So there's some sort of problem here and I can't figure out what it is. Something wrong with this line because when I use these break lines, you can see it's going down 18 meters and I'm unsure why it's doing that. I don't understand why it's doing that. If there's an issue with this is one reason why I'm skeptical about using break lines is because you get garbage like this. So the way I would normally do this, probably because it's coastline, is I would use that polygon file that I generated and I would set those at 0. And I could certainly try doing that by opening up the polygon. This should just be all the water polygons. Those are islands. I'm going to edit this feature and I'm going to add one called elevation. This is one way to do this. I'm just going to set it at 0. Since this is coastline. Okay, let's see if this will work now. I'm going to keep the water polygons instead of the other break lines, and I'm going to try using that instead. Turn off this. Delete the, I'll keep that. Turn on the water polygon break line. I'm going to repeat this process. Basically what I did was I took these water polygons and assigned a 0 value to it. And now if I use these as the brake lines. Turn off this, but these two have elevation. See what this does. Kind of curious actually, because again I wouldn't do it this way, but I don't even know why I'm showing you this way if I'm not going to do it this way. Well, I would use the brake lines in cases inland, but most of the time when I get brake lines, I'll actually just do the polygons. I won't worry about the small rivers and things like that. And then with these coastal areas, I typically will use polygons instead of generate polygons instead of using these brake lines, because a lot of times I'll have a problem with it. But in theory, this should be work right, and I'm not sure what's going on right now. Looks like this is set. I'm going to call this will be test the water polys. Grid. Okay, so I tried it that way with the polygons, and I guess it's closer, but it's not really set at 0. So I don't really like gridding using the brake lines at all. I usually would grid the entire DTM without brake lines and then fix it with the water polygon. So that's the way I would do it. And in the next video, I guess I'll just show you how to go ahead and process the data without brake lines.